Hey guys, Mike from Nerd Problems Gaming here, and welcome to Nerd Problems Gaming, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on those bell notifications to get the latest updates of new videos we put out here on everything nerdy. And today's video we'll be talking about the rise and fall of players' guides, so let's get into it. All right, guys, so as weird as it is, I think maybe some of you out there might not even know what players' guides are, but basically they're in-depth walkthroughs of games. So they walk you through literally every single aspect you could ever want to know about a video game, and it's just one game itself that it covers. So players' guides are really going to cover all kinds of different areas of a game. So it's going to be things like the strategy of it, maps, items that you can collect, bestiaries, talking about all the different monsters you might fight, their strengths, their weaknesses, how to defeat different bosses and enemies, secret areas within the game, and more. And so it really broke down every single aspect within a game, and that was one of the great benefits actually having a player's guide. Now, with today's day and age of the internet, you might wonder, why is this even necessary, right? Well, when games first started, there wasn't really an option to actually go out and find out every single thing about a game unless you bought some kind of player's guide. Now, early games, as you'll see here, King's Quest V on the NES, this one was kind of like a real puzzle game, and some of the puzzles were just ridiculously hard. And so some companies would actually have kind of dial-in hotlines that you could use to call in and get hints about the game when you were stuck. Now, as you can see on the back of this manual there, they were charging 75 cents a minute, which I think even today would be a little bit crazy, but back in the early 90s, even more so, right? And so this was really one of the only first options that people had when it came to players' guides. Now, Nintendo Power, one of my favorite magazines ever, right? They actually, early on in the beginning, used to dedicate some of their issues to full game players' guides. And so Final Fantasy here is one of my favorite games of all time, as you can see, right? But this was one of the early players' guides that did come out, and they actually went through every single aspect of the game. And having a guide like this was super beneficial, because there were points when you were playing video games back in the day, unless like your friend had one of the games or you had a magazine like this, that was really one of the only options you could do to figure out how to get past certain areas. I know there were games early on that I had where I just got stuck and stopped playing the game. And so it was a very frustrating thing at the time to run into issues like that. So if your friend didn't have it, you didn't have a player's guide, there was no way to actually beat this game. And so it was really frustrating. So again, the advent of player's guides was super helpful, and Nintendo Power really kind of took on that reign for a lot of their games. And one of the first ones that I really remember diving into was with Earthbound. Now, this was an RPG, kind of a quirky Super Nintendo game that came out, but this game actually came with a player's guide. And then I think this is really when it started to come to the forefront. Companies were selling these, they were coming with games in some cases like this one, and that was really cool, because these big, longer, epic games that were coming out on like the Super Nintendo, for example, there was a lot to cram in there. And so that's really, I feel like, when a lot of the players' guides really started to shine. And one of the things that I know I used to do is, with Nintendo Power, their subscriptions that they had, they would give you like a renewal bonus. So if you renewed, you would be able to pick out a player's guide and then get that just for renewing the subscription. So I definitely know I got Super Metroid, the player's guide for that, Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, all these different player's guides I got for renewing my subscription to Nintendo Power. So it was really cool to be able to get these extra in-depth guides as a bonus to renewing your subscriptions to a magazine that you really wanted anyway. Now, in my personal opinion, I think that RPG player's guides were probably the best option that you could have for a player's guide. For example, take the Pokemon one. This was actually one of my favorite player's guides, and a lot of it was just because the in-depth analysis that they went through on all the different Pokemon. You can see in the picture here, basically, that they would break down each individual Pokemon kind of have like their stat analysis, the level up moves, which, you know, level that they learn these different things, what version of the game you could catch them in. It was actually pretty cool too. They had like a sticker guide that you had as well, where you could fill in, you know, as you caught the Pokemon, putting them in the player's guide. They had, you know, all the lists of the different items, where you could get the different HMs, the technical machines, you know, the moves that you could teach your Pokemon. So really in-depth guides on everything that you could find. And I just remember spending hours like looking through this, you know, when I first got this guide playing the original game, just trying to, you know, come up with the different best strategies, the ultimate battling Pokemon, right? And so this was a really cool thing that you could do, you know, with players' guides and analyzing the games that you were playing. I think probably another one that I spent a ton of time in was the Final Fantasy X player's guide, because that game had the ability where you could really customize different armor that you put on your characters, customize the weapons, and, you know, you could basically kind of customize your own. So I spent a ton of time really just trying to analyze the different weapon and armor combinations that you could do and kind of create this ultimate armor for your characters, where you're, you know, auto regen, you're auto bring yourself back to life, you've got auto haste, you know, all these different special bonuses that you could create. And again, none of this would really be possible to figure out without an in-depth guide like this. You know, one of the other really cool things that I liked a lot about Player's Guide is that there was all kinds of different unique artwork that you would be able to find in the game. So like in this Final Fantasy Player's Guide, for example, they had cool backstories on the characters, unique artwork for the game. And so that was really fun to be able to go through and see those different things, you know, at a time where the internet didn't really exist, you know? So if you ever wanted extra features or extra stuff with games, or kind of cool behind the scenes stuff like artwork, that was really the only kind of place you would ever find it, would be in players' guides. But, you know, flash forward, coming to the internet time, right? It started to kind of become obsolete, where different websites were starting to pop up. I know one of the first ones I started using early on was GameFAQs.com, and people would actually post walkthroughs on there that you could download. They would have like frequently asked questions, so if you commonly got stuck in a part, you could find that and get through it. You know, there's video game forums that you can use now. You know, IGN has a lot of different things. YouTube, obviously, people will post different game footage, you know, tutorials, walkthroughs. You know, that really changed the dynamics of this player's guide universe, right? The market that they created with these, for these games, because now people could take their, you know, game footage as they're playing games, create their own tutorials, share that with the world, and people were even able to monetize these and kind of make money on their own, starting to play video games themselves, doing these tutorials. And so again, with the information really at your fingertips, it really started to kind of decline the use of player's guides. You know, I know for me, the last player's guide I actually bought was for Final Fantasy 13, and that game came out in 2009. So again, I really haven't bought a player's guide for over 11 years, because the information is kind of now at your fingertips. And so, you know, just interesting to see the growth of players' guides, how frequently I know I would buy them, and how I just would spend a lot of time looking through them, analyzing the different strategies as I played different games. And now moving forward, it's kind of a thing of the past. Now they do actually still sell players' guides. I just don't really know who's buying them. So definitely let me know in the comments below. Do you still buy players' guides? Do you still use them? Or do you just really find all of your information online? You know, I think maybe at this point it might just more be kind of like a collector's thing. So if you really like a game, you're really into it, maybe you buy a player's guide for that. Certainly there is, you know, convenience options to it. You know, if you want to flip through and see, you know, where the maps are in a specific area, or you want to look up how to beat a specific boss, you can just flip through that page, and then there you go, right? You're able to look up that information and get past that. So there certainly are some advantages to having like a physical player's guide, but with how the internet is, you can almost just Google anything, find stuff on YouTube. People have forums out there where you can get the information instantly and get past whatever part that you're in for free. So, you know, like I said, let me know in the comments below if you guys are still buying players' guides, what your favorite players guides were back in the day. What ones did you spend a lot of time on? What were, you know, some of your favorites? Let me know those things in the comment below. I'd love to chat with you more about it there. But again, if you guys got some benefit and value out of this video, feel free to comment and share. And if you haven't done so, like this video. It helps out the channel a ton. And then also subscribe and turn on those bell notifications, as you'll get notified of the latest videos that we put out here on everything nerdy. But also, if you guys would like to help us support the channel, help us pick out videos and more, certainly become a patron of ours over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. Again, that's nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do over on the channel as well, head on over to nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. Again, that's nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch, and follow us on Twitch over there as well. But again, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you more soon.